Hey you guys, welcome back to Mayfield Ranch. I'm Katie. I was headed out to the garden. I'm gonna hang out with you guys. We'll get some things planted. But on the way I noticed all of our roses are blooming. So I thought I'd show you that real quick before we get out there. Hey guys, so the first thing we gotta do is just bring out the plants. So I've done that. I wanted to show you how I started these. So I used 2-inch soil blocks for some of the larger plants. And this is how I labeled them, if you guys can see. And I'll try to show you in here. So a couple different ways of starting. I started most of the plants in little pots like this for the plant sale. I just write on them the label of what's in here. Start them like this for the plant sale. This looks perfect. I can leave a link in the description box below to the Amazon item where I purchased these little pots. They're super thin, they're very inexpensive, so they're not something that, like, for the home gardener, if you're going to purchase and use them over and over again, I wouldn't recommend that. But they're perfect if you want to do a plant sale or just one-time use. They're pretty similar to a solo cup. Like, if you've seen that, you just drill holes in the bottom. This, it already comes with the holes in it, and it worked pretty good. So I'll leave a link if you guys are interested in that. So that's one option. But let me show you. So these are mostly squash plants or vining type plants, bigger seeds, grow quicker. So I used these are restaurant trays. I found these at a yard sale. I actually bought like a rack with a couple of trays. It's like a catering business going out of business. So that's what I'm using for this. You can use any kind of tray, really. Let me show you how big these are in here, if you can see. Kind of move the leaves out of the way. But these are just 2-inch soil blocks, and they're working really well. These have been in here probably 3 weeks, so not super long. I started them here because I wanted a little bit of a head start. We've been super busy and have not gotten out in the garden as soon as we should have. So that's the reason I kind of started these in the house like this. Typically, if I'm going to start squash plants on time when I should, I would start them in a much bigger container because I like to get them a little bit bigger before I put them out in the garden. We're about a month late on planting out in our garden. So the weather's been pretty good. Our schedule has not. So we're getting started today, just getting everything out here. Okay guys, so I did the same thing with pepper plants. So here are some of my pepper plants. You can see pretty healthy, super full. They're all looking really good. Some of them are starting to flower already. So these are more than ready to get planted out here. These I started in actually smaller. So the 3/4-inch soil blocks, I up potted them into the 2-inch. Next year, I'd probably just start them right in the 2-inch soil blocks. Okay guys, here's one of my zucchini rapicante. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's supposed to be a vining plant that'll grow really big fruit like zucchini. So this is it. It was in my 2-inch soil block. I did tear out some of the roots there. They were kind of growing on the bottom. This has been planted from seed about 3 weeks ago. So this is approximately the size from planting it from seed about 3 weeks ago. So we're gonna get this in the garden. Okay, so I'm gonna plant all 3 of these right here so that they'll grow up on this trellis. So we'll get these going. Now the soil blocks were kind of close together, so I just kind of break them apart, try to separate the roots. You can see pretty good root material here. All right, so we'll see how those do. So we planted this one right here, right there. Okay, so we're gonna get the Armenian cucumber planted. I'm gonna put it right here where we typically have cucumbers. I love Armenian cucumbers, they're my favorite. So we're gonna try to plant some here, and then we're gonna plant other varieties of cucumbers over there. So I started 4 Armenian cucumbers. I only ended up with 3. That one didn't germinate. We're gonna plant 3. Okay guys, on this trellis right here in this garden bed, I'm gonna plant the koozie. So here's that. I'm gonna plant that. So instead of planting it on the trellis over there that we walk through all the time, I'm gonna try to plant it here. We don't need to walk through this. And I'm thinking as they grow and hang down, perhaps this is a better spot. So we'll plant it here. We'll see how it does. This definitely took a little bit longer to germinate than everything else. I should have 3 of these, only 2 germinated here. And you can see they're much smaller than everything else. I'm gonna go ahead and plant them. They've got good roots. So the one thing I'm noticing here is just the way Gary has the water set up. There's a good foot in between where the water is distributing and where I wanna plant these along the edge. So because of that, I'm gonna move them over a little bit just to be sure that they get water. I really wanna get some of these harvested this year. So I'm gonna put them kind of right here and we'll just let them grow up to this trellis. Now because we put cardboard here, I am being sure just to poke a little hole in that cardboard. It's nice and wet, so I think the roots would get through anyways. I'm just being a little extra careful to do that. All right, so we've got 2 of the koozies here. We'll try to grow them up over this trellis. So I've got a tray of these Chinese long noodle beans. We're gonna plant these right here in this raised garden bed and let them grow up this side of the trellis. There's a little too much shade right here, so we're gonna actually, bug. I love the outdoors, really. Okay, so there's a little too much shade right here, so we're actually gonna need to trim this olive tree back quite a bit just to keep it from covering. I wanna plant a couple more plants here, get our long beans going. So first we'll get these planted, we'll worry about trimming that later. Well, we'll ask Gary. So I started these long beans, I just labeled the tray because I started 12 in containers like this, and I put 3 seeds each. You can see some of them are struggling here. This one's like starting upside down. So anyways, we got plenty of beans. We're gonna put them right in here. Probably about 24 to 30 plants we're gonna put in a pretty small area and just let them grow. Okay, so because I'm planting so many, I think the easiest way to do it is I just dug like a trench with my hand, a couple of ways here, and we're gonna just toss these all in together. One thing that's pretty nice about these pots, you can really squish them and easily get the roots out without messing them up, if that's important to you. You can see the root growth pretty good. They're definitely not root bound. They are ready to get in the ground. This one, if you can kind of see, sprouted upside down. So this was in the dirt and the roots were out. I'm gonna put it in, see if it'll live. It's not dead yet. We'll see. This one, all 3 sprouted. Kind of squish this, pull these out, pretty good roots. Now, if these were more root bound, like if the roots were like super twisted around, then I would move them around. They're not. They're pretty loose as it is. You can see soil's kind of falling apart. So I'm just putting them right in. Now, if you noticed when Gary did, like when we did the video for the prep of this garden, we put cardboard down in an attempt to get rid of the Bermuda grass. I think you can see from this video that was pretty ineffective. It's only been about a week and a half since we did that. So if anybody has a good recipe for Bermuda grass, let me know, because I think I'm going to be able to grow that. Okay, you guys, we've been out here for, I don't know, probably almost 2 hours now, and most of my time has been spent pretty much like this, wondering where am I going to put everything that I started seeds for. So we're going to put the straight 8 cucumbers right here. I have this tall trellis kind of in the middle of this raised bed. To be completely honest, I don't love it. It's not really that easy to harvest the cucumbers. they kind of spread out into the rest of the raised bed and crowd everything out. Pests are somewhat of a problem here, but I don't really have a much better solution. So if you guys have recommendations, leave me a comment and let me know what you think I should do next year. We like cucumbers. We grow them pretty easily, typically early in the season before aphids are an issue. Once it gets pretty hot, we don't do so well with cucumbers, but we get an abundance of them early in the season. I just don't love this particular trellis, if you will, for growing them and the ease of harvesting them. So let me know if you guys have a better idea, but for now we're going to plant some straight 8 cucumbers right here. I also started these in the 2-inch soil block, so I'll show you what they look like. I'll show you what the roots look like if I can get them out here. Now I will say, even in soil blocks, the roots do kind of grow together with their next door neighbors. So here's my straight 8 cucumbers. I did put a couple of seeds per soil block. It looks like we ended up with 2, 4, 7 plants. So we're going to put those right along here on this side. So one of the other things that I find makes it hard is just the depth of this bed. If I could access from both sides, maybe this wouldn't be so bad. Look at these roots in just a 2-inch soil block. All right, we've got our straight 8 cucumbers planted right here. So I have one sweet dumpling squash that germinated. So we're gonna plant him, and then I have 3 delicata. So we're gonna put the delicata over on that side. We're gonna put the sweet dumpling right here. We'll see how these grow. Hopefully they grow right up on this trellis and they do well like this. So we'll see. Guess I'll start with the sweet dumpling. I'm a little concerned about all the Bermuda grass in this bed, but if you've watched our previous videos, we've tried and tried to get it out of here. I think the only way is to empty this bed, get rid of all the Bermuda grass, put some kind of weed block or something underneath, fill it with new soil. We just don't really want to do that, or at least we're not going to do that this season. And we spent a ton of time last year trying to get all this Bermuda grass out and keep up with it. And I think this year, I don't know, maybe we'll try, but it's going to be what it's going to be. We're going to get what we're going to get, and we're not going to throw a fit. All right, so we got that little baby planted. Now, if you can tell, I don't know if you can see, but there's another trellis, kind of a short one on that end, because the cucumbers kind of grow up on it and over. So this is definitely a little bit harder to access like this. If you guys are putting arched trellises, my favorite are in between beds. So you can walk through them. You still have the benefit of growing up on them. They do block access to plant a little bit, but I mean, you can definitely plant kind of through the squares here. But when all 3 sides are blocked, it makes it a little bit difficult to plant. But really the challenge is harvesting when you're trying to get in there, and if there's stuff in this area, it's tough to see and it's tough to access. So I would recommend leaving as many sides open as possible. If you're gonna do trellises, maybe leave a little bit of a gap so you can get in and kind of plant and harvest. Just something to think about if you're gonna invest in cattle panel trellises. Let's get these 3 in. That way it gives these guys a little bit of space to grow. Now with squash, unlike tomatoes, you don't want to plant the squash too deeply. Just go ahead and plant it about the same depth that it's currently growing in its 2-inch soil block or cup, however you started it. And these could have absolutely been started by seed out in the garden. I just did it in the house so they get a little bit of growth before I had time to come out here and do this. The other thing we did is we put all the irrigation in first, turned it on. That gives me an idea where it's watering, where I can put the base of the plant. Just helps a little bit because we get pretty hot summers, so we want to make sure the plants are nice and healthy. So I have found more Armenian cucumbers in the house when I was looking for lemon cucumbers. So I'm going to put a couple lemon cucumbers, one here, one here. They'll grow up on this like half trellis kind of. I'm going to plant one of the extra Armenian cucumbers right here, see if I can kind of get it to trail over also. So we'll do that. I did choose one that just had one Armenian cucumber plant in it. With the intention that it actually grows up here and hopefully doesn't overwhelm the bed, because I do want to put something else here. All right, so we'll plant these 2 lemon cucumbers. And they look pretty healthy. Roots look good, definitely not root bound at all. Now, if you guys are wondering what happened to the peas, so we planted peas here not too long ago. Gary actually filled the beds with compost and stuff after that. It got super cold and then it got hot really quick. We didn't have our watering set up. So some of them were still alive, but they didn't look super healthy. I just pulled them out and we're gonna get started with this. The weather changed really quickly. So generally we're only gonna get peas here when it's a little bit cooler. And it's been well over, well, maybe not well over, but it's been 90 degrees the last several days. It's been 90 degrees the last several days. So I don't know, we just sacrificed the peas and we're gonna start with everything else. We'll plant some more peas for fall. So this year, guys, I'm gonna try to grow loofah. I've never grown it before. I have 3 seeds that I started just in a napkin on Monday of this week, and today's Saturday morning. So I started these Monday night in a napkin, just in the house, a little bit of water in a Ziploc bag on top of my grow lights, so a little bit of warmth. I'm gonna put them over there in this garden bed, but I thought I would show you what they look like. So it's been 1 week approximately. 2 of them, if you can see that, seeds opening, it's kind of starting to sprout. This one, seeds opening, kind of starting to sprout. See if I can open and show you guys the 3rd one in here. Last night I didn't see anything happening. I'm not sure about this one. So there's like a little mark, a little white mark on the end. We'll see if that one ends up sprouting or not, but I'll put all 3 seeds in that bed there. Just put those in, barely covered them with dirt, just a tiny little bit, maybe not even a 1/2 inch. The reason I want to grow loofah this year is I want to see if I can make my own little scrubbers for the donkey waterers and all the animal waterers. We constantly are scrubbing those water bowls. There's algae constantly because we don't have a lot of shade. So I want to see if I can make my own little scrubbers, leave them out there. It's natural. So if the donkey gets a hold of them, it's not going to cause any problems. So when I went in the house to look for my lemon cucumber that we just planted over there and the loofah seeds I knew I was sprouting, I found a few more Armenian cucumbers. I did plant one in that bed. We're going to put the other 2 pots here, so 6 plants, just right along this edge. Hopefully they'll kind of grow over here. I anticipate this is going to turn into a bit of a mess. As I mentioned, a little tougher to harvest and identify them in this area. But we're going to plant them here anyways, and hopefully they kind of spill over. We don't get Armenian cucumbers for too long in the season, so I'll plant as many as I can. We'll take advantage. So I mentioned that we don't get Armenian cucumbers for very long in the season. So when it gets really hot, they don't seem to do so well. And if we get aphids, then that's it. Once we get aphids, that's about it on our cucumbers. We'll get this planted here. Now, just like everything else, I did poke a little hole in the cardboard just to make sure the roots can get down deep there. Okay, you guys, I think we're done for today. My hands are nice and dirty. Be sure to subscribe if you want to check out our next video. I think we're going to plant the peppers next. So make sure you're subscribed, hit that notification bell so you can hang out with us when we plant the rest of our garden and see all of our garden tours and updates on our animals. Thanks, you guys.